I'm gonna argue. Well, there are a bunch of purposes, obviously, but I'll argue that there are two that are particularly important, and I think this applies in many fields. One is to open students' eyes to what is possible, and I think that's particularly important for students who are going to go into that sort of field. People who are going to pursue careers in science, engineering, and technology. I went to high school about 10 miles from here, just across the river in South Philly. And the school that I went to was a public high school, and there were a lot of very dedicated, very passionate teachers there. But I realize now that they were hamstrung in many ways by lack of facilities, lack of equipment, curriculum rules, all sorts of things that prevented them from, I think, serving their students to the greatest extent they would have liked to. And I grew up in the 60s. And I was really interested in space. I thought space was really cool. But I grew up watching Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. But to me, space exploration was something that people on television did. Okay, it wasn't a career option. That was something special people did. And it wasn't until I got to college. It wasn't until I got to Cornell, where I was an undergraduate. In my junior year at Cornell, I signed up for a course on the results of the Viking mission to Mars, which was flying at the time. And I came out of that course knowing exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. But it wasn't until I was in college that I was actually exposed to people who really did space exploration. And they didn't have superpowers. They didn't have X-ray vision. They couldn't fly. They were just normal folks who got to do something cool. And it opened my eyes to make me realize, hey, maybe I could do this too. But it came too late. It happened for me in college. And where we really got to reach kids is in high school, is in middle school, is at the time in their lives when they're exposed to so many different influences and they're starting to make decisions about what they want to do. And I think the SLA is a great example of a place that does expose kids at that age to real science, real scientists. And it doesn't have to be science. It can be other things as well. But exposes kids to what is possible and makes them realize, hey, I could do this too. In fact, I can maybe even do better, right? The other thing that I think, other purpose for science education and other sorts of education as well, is to allow people to understand how things really work. At Cornell, where I teach now, I teach astronomy 102, 270 students. Introductory astronomy, of those 270, 260 are going to go off and do something that has nothing to do with science. Okay? They're English majors, government majors, history majors, people who are going to do other things. And for many of them, it is their one and only exposure to science. Okay? That's the only science course they're going to take at Cornell. And it's very easy for students like that to look at science as being a static body of knowledge that you learn from a textbook and you memorize so that you can get the right answers on the test, and then you've done your science course. And I've always felt that the most important thing that you can do when you're trying to teach people about science is to let them know how science really is. One of the things that I do, I work on this Mars rover mission, and one of the things that I do, and I've been doing for 5 years now, as long as the rovers have been on Mars, is I start every class off with 3 or 4 minutes on what happened on Mars today. And depending on how the Mars time and Earth time line up, sometimes it works out that the downlink from the spacecraft comes literally a half an hour or an hour before class. And I remember vividly, this was actually the most significant scientific discovery that the Squyres rover has made over the course of its 5-year mission. That rover was kind of beat up, and the right front wheel doesn't work anymore. And so when you drive this vehicle, you have to drive it backwards, and we drag that wheel through the soil. And it digs this hundreds of meters long trench through the Martian soil. And I remember it was a Monday, coming in, looked at the downlink, pictures had just come down from Mars. There's the trench. And on the floor of the trench, the soil in the bottom of the trench popped up as bright as white snow. Now, we'd seen stuff like this before, and it had always been sulfate salts. And we thought we had an explanation for how that got there. So I remember going into class and opening up my laptop and saying, okay, this picture just came down from Mars about an hour ago, bright white soil in the tracks, it's going to be sulfate salts, we'll go and make a measurement on it, and I'll let you know on Wednesday what we find, but I'm sure it's going to be ferric sulfate.
Dr. Squyres?
Yeah.
If I can just cut in, and I never interrupt the panelists. But ladies and gentlemen, he's talking about Mars like it's his backyard garden.
I showed him the spectrum and I said, guys, I was wrong. This stuff is silica, it's not sulfates. I don't know how it got there. I don't know what it means. We're totally confused by this. I'm going to have to get back to you. I think this is important, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm thinking these guys are, I'm getting an Ivy League education and my professor doesn't even know what's going on. But the beauty of it was that it helped these guys to realize that no, science isn't a static body of knowledge that you learn from a textbook. It's a process of uncovering new knowledge. It's a process of discovery. We know more about Mars today than we